Now, any candidate hoping to replace President Trump is going to likely make climate policy a centerpiece of their first term. And two of the biggest pieces of that puzzle are the transportation and electrical grid. We were just talking about transportation, but if you take transport and electricity combined, this constitutes more than half of all U.S. greenhouse gas emissions, according to the EPA. Environmental plans from various presidential candidates address these two areas specifically, so I want to take a quick look at them. First, transportation. According to the EPA, a typical passenger vehicle emits 4.6 metric tons of CO2 per year. In 2017, there were more than 193 million passenger vehicles registered in the United States, meaning more than 890 million metric tons of CO2 were emitted just from passenger cars. This is nearly twice all of the emissions produced by the entire country of Brazil in 2017. So for anybody who says driving cars isn't a big contributor to CO2 emissions, that's just wrong. Most of the presidential candidates have released plans which specifically point to these emissions. While the timelines vary between the candidates, all of them pledge that there will be zero emission cars, or that all new cars in the United States will be zero emission between 2030 and 2035, which is what Ann was talking about. General Motors and the American automakers are aiming to get there. Coming up next, our buildings. They consume energy too, obviously, to heat and cool, created by our electrical power plants. According to the EPA, in 2017, electricity generation was responsible for nearly 1.8 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide, CO2. Again, the candidates vary in their timelines, but they all agree that we need an emission-free electrical grid by 2050 at the latest. Most of the plans contain phase-ins for new buildings to be carbon neutral by the mid-2030s. All of this is going to take a lot of effort. Incentives, cooperation between traditional political rivals, cooperation between the government and industry. A new president is going to have a mix of executive orders, federal regulation and legislation, and frankly, a pitch to Americans in industry and in their lives about why we have to fundamentally change the way we consume and produce energy. The plans to address our carbon economy are ambitious, but there are some surprising groups getting behind the push. And joining us now is former South Carolina Republican congressman, Bob Inglis. Sorry, Bob, we've talked many times. I do know that you're a man. The executive director of a Republican group. It's called Republic N. It's a group of conservatives, libertarians, and others who are working to address climate change. Bob, good to see you.
Good to be with you. Thanks.
Bob, I'm going to jump first. How much of a challenge is it right now? Because you've got members of your own party who, out of the gate, are somewhat climate deniers.
Well, it's getting better, is the answer to that question. It's getting much better. You know, for about a decade, it was a disputation of the climate science. But now things are turning. In part, it's that the economy's better, and therefore we can focus a little bit longer term. Second, that we've all had more experiences with climate change. And third, I think there are more groups like ours messaging on the right and helping conservatives to enter the conversation in a language that they know.
Bob, I just want to make a correction. Not only did I get your gender wrong, Republican is Republic EN, right? That's how it's said.
Yeah, we're different. We even spell it a little bit differently. It's for energy and enterprise and entrepreneurship, solving climate change through free market principles.
Let's just go back to a point that Ann Thompson and Stephanie and I were talking about a couple minutes ago. For Republicans, this is reclaiming natural ground, right? You're not some weird guy off to some side of the Republican Party. Republicans have been at the forefront of climate legislation in this country, certainly going back 50 years.
Yeah, and what you were just saying is exactly correct. You know, and it is important that what you led with there, that Reagan was the one that gave California that waiver. That Nixon was the one that was all over the creation of the EPA and the Clean Air Act. This is a Republican heritage. This is we've long been about conserving and keeping our resources good, rather than using them up, burning them up. So this current sort of disputation of the science is not something we conservatives are used to.
Right.
So we think it's an aberration. We want to return to to this classic conservatism of saying that you bet it's conservative to figure out a way to use market principles to fix climate change. And we think the best way to do that is just eliminate all the subsidies for all the fuels, attach all the cost to all the fuels, build them all into the price, and then watch the free enterprise system deliver innovation faster than government mandates or regulations or incentives could ever imagine. That's a level playing field is what we're looking for, and we think it's bedrock conservatism.
Then where's the root of this skepticism?
Well, it comes from various things. I mean, there were some merchants of doubt that used the Great Recession to spread this message of, blowing enough smoke to make us doubt whether there's really a consensus on climate change. But thankfully, the air is clearing on that. I mean, that gig is about up for those merchants of doubt. And then the other thing is just the conversation has been mostly conducted the language of the left. Let's do with less. Let's walk and eat bugs. Okay, so that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's the way we conservatives heard it. And what we do at republican.org is change that conversation so that it's more about a language of abundance. We want more energy, more mobility, more freedom. We just want it cleaner, better, faster, cheaper.
Right. That's
like the best way to get there is through free enterprise.
Interesting way to say that, right? If we don't talk about this as sacrifices and inconveniences and things like that, but we talk about it as prosperity and opportunity to do the right thing and be at the front end of it, that would be neat. So let's put aside the climate deniers, because they're a small and shrinking proportion of the population. Right. They're loud, but they're getting smaller. Let's talk about all those people, many of whom will be conservatives, who think of the change that is necessary as either not urgent or too expensive for them to want to be involved in.
Yeah, and of course what we need to show them is solutions that seem practical. And those are here. We've got them. It's just that they're not quite economic. And so what you got to do is you got to prop them up. That's one way to do it, is to give incentives and tax benefits to the challenger fuels. The other way to do it, which we think is even more efficient, is just to make the incumbent fuels fully accountable for all their cost. Make it so they got to pay for dumping into the trash dump of the sky. If they do, then the playing field is leveled, and you have entrepreneurs marrying inventors and delivering to us willing customers at that point, new technologies that work and expand our economy and have the U.S. leading the world to a solution. So it's a strange place, in my opinion, for America to be on the sidelines sniveling about how we can't do this and we can't do that, and no, the world's going to have to try to do it without us. That's a strange state of affairs as far as I'm concerned. America is the one that should be leading this. We've got the inventors. We've got the investors, and really we've got the ideas that will solve this challenge. We at republican.org, we think this is a problem of economics that has an environmental consequence. You fix the economics, the environment will take care of itself. It's pretty exciting, really.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.